They said I had vanished in the I don't fold, that I was reduced to echoes in a region no probe could enter, no light could touch, no voice could leave. But I remember everything. I remember the scream of the ship hull as space tore sideways. I remember my crewmates turning into silence before they even knew fear. I remember looking into the void and finding it not empty, but watching me. It was not death. It was something older. It opened and I fell into a corridor of stars that were not stars, into time that folded like cloth, into memories that did not belong to me, and yet stitched themselves into my soul. I had only one thought as my body reassembled on the other side of that storm. I had to get back. I had to see her face again. Not just the physical her, not just the one who taught me to walk, to speak, to repair oxygen seals, but the essence, the matron mind, the galactic mother who cried when her children vanished into deep missions, and who never stopped believing they might one day find the way home. The planet they dropped us on was marked uninhabitable on every chart. A Class 0 husk, abandoned by its own sun, stripped of atmosphere by a rogue satellite years before my kind even left Earth. But when I stepped onto its surface, I felt the hum of roots long buried beneath ash, and I knew it was not dead, not truly dead, only waiting. I wandered blind, half my suit torn, half my memories folding in on themselves, the weight of stardust in my veins, and yet I found signs of life, signs of something reaching up from beneath the ruin. I found carvings old and curved in language I knew, but could not translate, and yet I understood. They whispered names and prayers and promises, a record of those who walked before and those who were coming home someday. The wind brought their voices to me, even though no wind should exist here. It guided my limbs like song, and I knelt beside a shard of polished stone and pressed my bare hand to it, and the soil shifted not in violence, but in recognition, as if saying, "Welcome, child, you have returned." They came not in ships, but in silence. They walked the horizon as if stitched into it. Their limbs moved like memory. And when they came close, I saw they were not human, not alien, not even spirit. They were expectation-given shape beings, born of maternal hope, forged in the waiting. I saw in their eyes the sorrow of countless generations who sent sons and daughters into systems they would never see again, hoping one would come back. And I understood then that the galactic mother was not one voice, but many. It was every world that sent its children skyward, every leader who hid her tears behind mission logs, every old woman who watched the stars, wondering if her blood still wandered among them. And these beings, these watchers, were her messengers, her breath, her grief, molded into guardians. They encircled me, not in threat, but in ritual. They touched my shoulder, my brow, my chest, and one by one they vanished into starlight, leaving behind only a single phrase, burned into the air: "Cry no more, galactic mother, your child has touched the soil." I slept in a crater that sang. I dreamed of the earth, not as it was, but as it might be. Hills breathing oceans, pulsing forests, whispering in forgotten dialects, and through it all her voice, not as a call, not as a sob, but as a heartbeat steady and warm and ancient. When I woke, the crater was gone, and I was on a path of glass like crystal that pulsed with my every step. The soil listened, it remembered me, and I felt my body changing, not in shape, not in structure, but in vibration. Every cell attuning to the frequency of return. I began to hear things behind my thoughts, laughter and lullabies and countdowns and poems I had never learned, but always known, as if the journey through the I don't fold had pulled me through every farewell ever spoken into space. I was not alone, not truly, not anymore. And with each step, I felt her sorrow lifting her vigil, lessening her shoulders, straightening in a place I could not yet see, but always felt, because she was watching, because she knew, because the soil had told her. There was a door with no frame and no wall. It stood in the air, supported by will and memory, and I stepped through it, not knowing if I would emerge or dissolve, and instead I found myself in a chamber of stone and starlight, where the first voice ever spoken to the void, still, echoed. This was the beginning not of life, but of longing. It was where the galactic mother became real, not through biology, but through purpose, through the ache of losing something precious, and never forgetting where it went. I saw her then, not as a woman, not as a face, but as 1,000 eyes that closed in relief as I entered, as if a breath held for centuries had finally been released. She did not speak. She did not need to. The soil beneath my feet turned green where I stepped, not in magic, but in memory. I was the proof that we could come back, that we could survive the fold, the loss, the loneliness. And as I placed my hand on the central stone, her arms unseen, yet undeniable, wrapped around my soul, and the words pulsed through the air. Cry no more, galactic mother, he walks your soil again. I stood in the highest place I could find, the air thin, the stars loud, the ground soft, and I activated the transmitter, carved from memory and crystal, from grief and hope. It was not a beacon, not in the traditional sense. It was a song of presence, of return of peace. It did not say, I am alive. It said, I am here, and that is enough. And in every corner of the galaxy, those who waited, those who feared, those who mourned, lifted their heads and knew not why. Their hearts beat steadier, their breaths grew fuller. The galactic mother wept, not in sorrow, but in release. And I stood there on that soil once, marked dead now, blooming beneath my feet. And I raised my hand toward the stars, toward her, toward all of them. And I whispered, not through radio, not through data, but through the very ground. I walked on. Cry no more, galactic mother. I am home, I am yours, and I have never truly been lost.